Rachel here. Welcome to my Slow TV Stitchery. Well, good morning everybody. Let's see where I've got to here. You may have noticed when you saw the full face, as it were, photograph at the beginning, that I have unpicked the clouds I'd done and started doing something else. And this was because what had looked good in the skein against these colours did not look so good when it was stitched, and coming to it fresh after a couple of years actually, I was a little more sure of my judgment and decided that that really didn't work and I had no business using it. So out it came, and I'm using two slightly different pale creams in the cloud, and I'm hoping that using them semi-interchangeably is going to give a bit of alteration and lift. So we shall have to see. It's a bit surprising, always, how some creams look just as pale as other creams until you stitch with them, and then suddenly they aren't. Something. It's clearly going to be one of those days. I spent yesterday finishing the canvas work on the case for my lorgnettes and putting borders around the two fishy canvas works. I'm not certain that the borders will be needed, but it's much easier to do them when the canvas work is still on the frame, and I may need that frame, so I wanted them off. I remember going up to Shields to take pictures of the Priory because I didn't already have anything suitable, and if I remember rightly, it was a very chilly spring day with mist, and as the mist cleared it was blowing half a gale, so I had the option of either being blown off the pier into the North Sea, which didn't appeal as an idea, or hunkering down and not being able to get the photographs. So it was a slightly exciting few hours, and almost all the photographs were slightly misty, which made it very hard to see what I might want to do. Now then. Now, I think when I've joined up with this line of stitching, might be a good time to start stitching more of the cream. So let's see. The fact that the linen is not entirely even in thickness does make using it as the basis for a canvas work stitch a bit tricky, but it worked so well for the odd little crossover between canvas work and surface embroidery that I used for the buildings that I'm quite happy to struggle along with the slightly peculiar stitching here. In the interests of having a finished piece, which is, after all, an important thing. Now then. So I need to move a bit further down here. So it is occurring to me that this may not be a very naturalistic sky, but then one can't really say that the Priory is terribly naturalistic when bits of it are in needle lace and bits of it are in wool. So I think we don't worry about that. If my voice sounds a little creaky, it's because it's a bit out of practice. My husband and I have both been working on individual projects that have required concentration, and consequently we've not been talking to one another very much, and our voices have got out of practice. And now he's on a Zoom call with a colleague planning mischief, and so his voice is going to get exercised, and I'm going to have to hope that mine gets back on track soon. I seem to be coming to the end of all my threads at once, so there was a short pause there while I gathered my scattered thoughts. Somewhat distracted, I must admit, by the sounds of my husband and his colleague practicing their presentation via Zoom. One of the reasons I rarely have vocal music on in the background is because if it's a human voice, one always wants to listen. It's not so bad if you know it's in a language you don't speak, but even then. It must be admitted that this particular coton brodé is a much better match for the fabric than the white is, but as long as they're used together, I should get away with it. There is something very agreeable, isn't there, about a fully stitched fabric, where you end up with effectively an entirely new fabric with a completely different feel. Though this one is going to take some serious stretching to get it square. That is a pleasant problem to have. I find myself wondering whether I picked the right direction for my diagonal here. I'm not going to unpick the sky again. I should think by now everybody who reads my blog or follows my videos will know that I only unpick things when I am certain that I know how to improve the situation before me. If I don't yet know what's wrong, I have a tendency to leave it in place until I do, because I find it easier to work out what's better when I still have the bad example in front of me. And if I'm not sure that the appearance of something will be improved, I don't really want to be unpicking it to the detriment of my base fabric and possibly any nearby bits which I'm happy with. So I'm wondering whether I'm sloping the sky in the right direction, but I think the gains for changing direction would be very slim. So that's not something I'm going to feel obliged to do. What I do need to get to grips with, however, is my clouds. Because one of the things I am finding here is that I can't picture what I'm going to do next, so I'm feeling very uncertain about progress, whether it's progress, and whether it's the sort of thing I want to be doing. Maybe what I should have done was pick a random Bob Ross sky and copy that in Stitch. Although that would be a complication, wouldn't it? That's all for this session. I hope you enjoyed following along. Happy stitching!